What's up guys, how you doing today? It's Inga Roleplay once again, and today I want to show you the build that I've been playing as a Abyss League starter, which is the Dark Pact Totems Ascendant build with a Scion and the Ascendancy. Oh shit. Okay, so first of all I wanted to refresh my memories about totems in general, because last time I played totems I think it was in the Tempest League or something. It was like ages ago, and I only made it to level 80 or something, and I was like pure shit newbie back in the day. I'm still pretty casual, but you know, back in the day and now it's very different things. So I wanted to refresh my memory about totems. I wanted to see how tough they are now, and also the Dark Pact skill gem. I was really interested in testing this because I couldn't test it in the Harbinger. And it was nerfed after the Harbinger League, that's why it was supposed not to be as powerful as before. I really wanted to see just how much content I can do with the build, how strong is Dark Pact now after the nerfs, how strong it is now after the Wither nerfs as well. And that's about it. I wanted to try Totems, and I want to try Ascendant as well. Well, I can tell you that I was pretty surprised at how well the build performed. First of all, I opened the entire fucking Atlas with this. I cleared over 140 maps with this. I killed 2 Guardians on the 5 link. My damage was like complete shit. I also already killed the red tier Elder, which is the max tier, and it was not very hard, to be honest. It was pretty fast. Even though I died because I'm pretty shit at endgame bosses in general, but the damage is there, and I know for a fact that the build killed a Sheeper in the previous league as well, so it can do pretty much anything. It's not the fastest build in the world. The clear speed is pretty not as fast because, you know, there's no shield charge, Whirling Blade shit, of course, but it's pretty solid. And if you really enjoy, you know, the slow-paced build when you can kind of move around slowly, killing packs, popping shit in and out, you can possibly enjoy the build. And I wanted to also go into the pros and cons first, and I'll explain what I really like, what are the strong points of the build and what are the weak points, and go in detail on other things as well. So let's get started. Talk about the pros of the build first, and the first and one of the most important is you basically don't give a shit about reflect and curses at all. Reflect doesn't hurt us in any way because, you know, it hurts totems and not us, and we deal damage for the totems, so we don't give a shit about reflect, and this saves a lot of pain in the ass. Another thing is curses. We don't care about curses. In fact, the more curses the better. We have Self-Flagellation Jewel and Kikazaru Rings, which makes us immune to the curses, and we gain damage because of the curses as well. Also, most bosses can be killed off screen because we are a totemist, you know, and I haven't really started dying, I think, before the Guardians. I haven't really died even once on any boss, even the highest tiers of the maps. Another cool thing is pretty high regen for the, you know, spellcaster, which is not really casting yourself. We don't have any source of leech whatsoever, just a regen, and 1000 life per second is no joke at all on a no leech build. That's why in the video you can actually see how fast I recover, especially with the Flask and the Pantheon power. That's why regen, curse immunity, reflect immunity, off-screen boss skills, and extremely high regen, it makes us pretty damn tough for you know, totem build. That's about it. For the cons of the build, I would say that the mobility is pretty slow. We're mostly flame dashing. There's no shield charging. Trust me, you don't want shield charge into your death. There's no whirling blading or whatever, and the clear speed is pretty moderately low, I would say. At the same time, another problem is there's no leech because we're not really casting spells directly. There's no spell leech. There's no well pact or whatever. So it can be a bit problematical for players who are not used to it playing with totems. Let's take a look at the power building with the stats that we have here. So first of all, we're dealing around 500k per totem. I'm gonna have 3 of them, so that's 1.5 million of damage, which is quite a damn lot, I would say. The Bandit is the Lyra. This is completely OP for crit multiplier and resist. For the skill tree, as you can see, we start from here. Basically going to the Totemic Master first. Then we grab life here, area damage here. As soon as you get Dark Pact, you should be ready to take Ancestral Bond, so that we have 2 totems and the spell totem as well. After that, it's mostly getting more life. Around Act 10, you should be getting all the fat life wheel here down below. Then go to the quick recovery. After you get to the maps, get Shamanistic Fury and start speccing into more crit chance, so your totem will start crit more. Get Annihilation, get Blast Radius, get Fat Crit Life of Cruel Preparation, and get Shaman's Dominion. That's about it. After that, it's mostly more crit here with Arcane Potency, more life. That's about it. So the first Ascendancy they should be getting is this. We go to the Guardian Ascendancy. This is very important because even though we wear 2 Kikazaru rings, it will still leave us with 20% curse effectiveness on us. And with Self-Flagellation Jewel, which as I'll describe later on, we will still be getting a lot of curses on us. And with the Spider Silk Robe, when a totem expires, we get automatically cursed. And this 20% curse effectiveness, if we have like 8, 10 goddamn curses on us, it'll be quite a pain in the ass. So eventually you will still need to get the Guardian to get rid of this pain in the asshole. It also gives us 10% more cast speed, block chance, and we can share charges with the entire totem and totems, golems, and other shit in the party. This is quite useful. The Mercy Lab, you should be go to the Shadow Ascendancy and get more crit chance, crit multiplier, chance to gain power charge against enemies that are full life, and crit strike and attack maim enemies. We don't really crit anything, so it doesn't matter. That's about it. The last Eternal Absence quite a pain in the ass to wait for this is the Path of the Shadow will start allocating on the right side of the tree. This is where we will be getting our last Chaos damage node as well as last crit node here with this Assassination. So that's about it. As for the jewels, guys, like I said, I will describe it all. The most important type of jewels we need is the double crit multiplier jewels, which is global crit multi for spells, and the rest is mostly life or more damage. This is one of the most craziest jewels I've ever found in the game so far, and bought it relatively cheap. It's got double crit, cast speed while holding a shield, as well as chaos damage, which is absolutely all I need. This is like entirely the DPS jewel we have here. Another type of jewel that might be there is this, which is chaos damage for spells. We use elemental focus and void manipulation, and void manipulation will reduce all elemental damage effectiveness added to the Dark Pact. That's why elemental damage is not good for the Dark Patterns build. That's why if we add fire or lightning, it will get reduced by 25%. That's why we need to try to add just chaos damage to our spells, which is very good. Another jewel that I have is this, is cast speed, global crit, and crit. Another jewel is here, double crit, chaos damage. And one of the most important, if not the most important jewel ever we can get is Self-Flagellation Viridian Jewel. It gives us 20% increased damage per curse on us, and we have 1 additional curse. And also it means that we have like 8, 10 curses on us with the Spider Silk Robe. And it means we have to have 100% increased damage most of the time across the maps, which is quite goddamn massive, guys. That's about it. Another thing you should notice is I have 5,000 life here, 200% life from the tree. We can get more on our jewels if we, like I said, you can get on hardcore or whatever, you can drop, for example, cast speed or chaos damage and get just double crit and life. These are not so rare jewels, I would say. We can get much more life with this. Another thing that you notice, obviously, is that Abyss jewels are not really necessary. I have like 1, 2, 3 Abyss jewels on me, that's about it. Also, you might have noticed that we have life region was about 1,000 life region, and with consecrated ground it's actually be more. Let me check this, what it is. It could actually be more. So this is pretty safe a life region build in the most place. That's about it, guys. That's about it. Let's move on to the next chapter. For early leveling, I strongly recommend to use accents per pattern. On softcore, you can even wear 2 of this and give tremendous amount of crit strike chance for spells, as well as cast speed and a lot of additive damage to spells as well. On hardcore, however, you can potentially use Spring Leaf because it gives 3% of life regen per second. I personally level up with the Spectral Throw and then switch to the Blade Works as soon as it was available, and level up with Blade Works up till I got my Dark Pact at level 28. But you can make it actually easier and just go with buying Fire Trap or Firestorm and then going with Ice Trap, because these deal quite a bit of damage if you wish. Another item which is extremely easy to get, cheap, and extremely effective even in the end game, which I'm actually using in the end game, is the Mutwind Whisperers. These give you cold damage to spells as well as ridiculous amount of crit chance for spells, actually up to 70. That's quite a lot. Also, they always come with a move speed, so you don't need to worry about. These are pretty squishy because there's no life, but at the same time this is purely DPS, and they give me around 10 more DPS on my spec as well. Let's talk about the actual skills and the gear that we'll be using. The only body armor that we'll ever need for this build is the Soul Mantle, which is Spider Silk Robe. It's an effective 7 link, which gives us a level 20 spell totem. It also increases the totem life by 50%, gives additional totem as well, and increases the spell damage. But at the same time, when our totem dies, we're being cursed by level 20 curse. That's why we need 2 Kikazara rings to completely remove the curse effectiveness along with the Guardian Ascendancy on us. The links on the Dark Pact should be Dark Pact, added chaos damage, void immolation, Kong effect, control destruction, as well as increased critical damage. Increased critical damage is much better than increased critical strikes. Want to get enough critical strikes on the tree. If you feel like your area of effect is not really good enough, and for like speed farming of the maps, you can also use increased area of effect instead of Kong effect. So the 2 rings that I'll be using are Kikazara rings, and unfortunately they have no resist, but at the same time they have like 60 lightning resist instead. At the same time they have 30% to all 30 to all attributes, as well as huge mana regen, and 40% reduce the effect of curses on you. 2 of this reduce the effect of curses by 80%, and with the Guardian, like I said, we have 100% reduced effect of curses on us. At the same time, this ring gives us 1 life regen per second per level, and it's in level 90. Imagine that we'll have 180 life regenerated. That's why the regen is so high. The amulet is basically this, with a huge amount of spell damage, cast speed, and global crit and life, and that's what you need. The shield is prioritized over dual wielding because, we're pretty squishy, no resist, low resist. So I went up with dual shields, with shield and the band for these purposes. Shield can have spell damage, can have crit strike chance for spells, can have life and resist. The links on this are Enlighten, Haste, and Purity of Elements, because we basically suck at resist at all. Enlighten is not important here at all because it's just there for something to be useful and to get more mana, but it's not really that mandatory. Haste is actually better than Anger at this point because Haste gives us cast speed, Anger gives additive damage to spells, but at the same time Haste also gives us movement speed, and we're pretty damn slow. That's why Haste is better at the same amount of damage. Like I said, Enlighten is not mandatory. You can just not buy this shit at all. The boots are Mutwind Whisperers, and these are the DPS option. For the safe hardcore player, you can just buy generic free res, move speed, life boots, which are widely available for any spellcaster build. But the only problem is that you will need this lab enchant, which is regenerate life and mana per second if you were hit recently. And I was lucky to get the Mercy lab enchant on this one. That's why I'm still using this actually. I'm having Enduring Cry to get Enduring Charges for regen, as well as my Immortal Call, with Val Grace, increased duration, and Val Haste. Val Haste in this setup is not really mandatory because it will separate the souls with the Val Grace. I pretty much ran the whole fucking game with just Val Grace and it was fine. Eventually I just fit fucking Val Haste here, but it's not really that important. You can just drop it at all. The belt is the Abyss belt, just like free res, but you know, any normal belt will be fine as well. The gloves are also their shape gloves, which are supported by faster casting. If you can get this, get this. But if you don't can get this, just it's no big deal at all. The gloves themselves are just dex, cast speed, resist, and life. That's about it. Dex is mostly for the Val Grace, by the way, and for the Void Manipulation and for the haste. The links are Wither, Arcane Surge level 10, increased duration to get the max duration for Arcane Surge, as well as Flame Dash. Flame Dash is all mobility, as also walks towards Arcane Surge as well. Wither and Flame Dash walk both towards Arcane Surge. So that's about it. If you don't have faster casting built on your gloves, if it's not 5 link, then just drop increased duration and use faster casting here instead if you wish. So the helm is just generic helm with life and resist, nothing crazy. The most important thing is the increased dark pact damage with his Eternal Lab enchant. Heroes are custom damage taken with Immortal Coal, custom damage taken, Shock Nova, and Feeble. Shock Nova, if though we don't really deal a lot of damage with Shock Nova, we'll still have a chance to shock enemies which are pretty nearby, and this is basically increases the damage for our totems as a result, which is a pretty small cheat that I use a lot for many things. On the van we have Summon Stone Golem, which is another source of regen. Like I said, we have a fuck ton of regen here in this build, which is paired with Cutting Strikes in case it will finish off the bosses, as blind support because he might potentially even blind the shit out of everything. So that's about it, guys. And for the Abyssal Jewel I have the Chaos Damage to Spells, Global Crit, and Life here as well. And the swap, I don't really have anything specific, just leveling in power, added chaos, and more dark packs. It's not important at all. Now let's talk briefly about the flask that I'm using for the build in a separate portion of the video. The first flask is of course the Diamond Flask, and this is remove shocks as well, which is basically the Perpetual Diamond Flask with grounding, just crit strike chance is lucky for more crit strike chance. The second is Basalt Flask. Unfortunately the build is pretty damn squishy, especially against physical damage reduction. We're not fucking jagging out, so we don't really have a lot of endurance charges. That's why I run a Basalt Flask with additional resist here. At the same time, I really like Sulfur Flask instead of Overflowing Chalice, because Sulfur Flask is basically the same as Overflowing Chalice, but I can also get some nice extra mod here, like immunity to freeze and chill that I use here. The fourth is the Silver Flask, which gives Onslaught. This is mandatory. Onslaught gives us cast speed for our totems, which is mandatory, guys. And the last is basically just the Life Flask with move speed. That's about it. I also sometimes use the Abysmal Flask when the map is really shitty with a lot of elemental additive damage. I can get this Abysmal Flask with double resist. For speed farming, like really low game shit, I can also use Quicksilver with the immunity to bleed or next to resist. For another DPS boost, you can actually use Witchfire, and I would drop actually Basalt instead of Witchfire. I tried running this setup. This is actually good because Despair Curse is like a chaos damage debuff against all the surrounding enemies, which is pretty massive amount of damage actually. But at the same time I felt a bit too squishy, so I personally do not recommend Witchfire Brew for hardcore. But for softcore, you can drop Basalt and just run all fucking guns blazing YOLO with Witchfire Brew, that's just pretty damn good. Now let's talk briefly about the Pantheon powers as well. I strongly recommend as the major god is the Soul of Arakali, because it's basically gives us higher recovery rate of life or energy shield if you stop taking damage over time. And also Chaos Res can really help against poison bosses and shit. Reduced effect of shock is also pretty neat, but most of the time it's just recovery rate of life, because regen and recovery is all we have as our source of mitigation. As a minor god, I strongly recommend the Soul of First Lava, as Life Flask gains 3 charges every second if we haven't used Life Flask recently. They can help a lot against bosses when we have to run around and try to evade damage while our flask gain charges. And also when on low life we get 60% increased life recovery from flask. That helps a lot as well when you take heavy hits pretty close to the bottom of your life pool, and then you recover instantly with all the life regen going on. I can say that Soul of Solaris is not bad at all against bosses, and at the same time Soul of Lunaris is even better against for mapping, because it gives us increased move speed and fist damage reduction. It can be pretty nasty at some really tough heavy hitters across the map. So these two are pretty damn good, I would say, as well. One of the questions that you might potentially have is this build hardcore viable or not? I believe that it's not, and I don't really recommend it for anyone hardcore. It can be played, but unfortunately without leech sources and some sustain and mitigation damage sources, it's just not as good for hardcore as some other builds out there. We can't really even stack a lot of it, energy shield, because we have the rings, the Tuki Kazar rings, and even though we have 200% increased life tree, and now we can potentially reach 6,000 life if we spec into more maximum life and pure life jewels on the tree, as well as more strength, like classic free res boots with 100 strength here, and potentially more strength here and more strength here on something else, and a better shield, for example, better helmet. You can reach 6,000 plus, it's no big deal, but it might not save you from heavy hitters, as well as across the maps you might still get hit by some really fast nasty mobs like the snakes and shit, or some there's the pillars that machine gun from their tails, in the alluring abyss. They can machine gun you if you don't have the resist, and at the same time resist, like I said, are pretty problematical, because we don't have resist in our rings, so we have to stack resist somewhere else. That's why the build is not really tanky, and it's a totem build after all. So and the leveling process can be pretty reapy as well. So I do not personally recommend this for hardcore unless you really want to invest in a lot of life and get free res boots for you. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about is the overall effectiveness of the build, and I'm gonna rate the build in different aspects. First, I'm gonna rate the build as the clear speed, and I will give this build as 2 out of 5 in terms of clear speed, simply because there's no whirling blades, there's no really fast moving skills except the flame dash. With the Quicksilver Flask, the build becomes pretty fast, but at the same time we can't just rush ahead because we're pretty squishy. Totem builds are all pretty squishy because you can't really jump in shit. There's no leech on hit with spells, there's no leech on hit with attacks, there's no leech in general, there's mostly recovery. You can jump and stuff and die. That's why the clear speed is 2 out of 5, simply because we have to be pretty careful across the map. In boss toughness and boss power and boss killing firepower, I would rate this build as 4 out of 5 because I haven't really experienced any problems killing bosses across all my Abyss journey. I haven't started dying, like I said before, the Guardians. I think that's one of the first deaths happened on the Guardians, and I was pretty squishy and I had like 5 link there. That's why it took quite a bit of time to fight the Guardians. But overall, across the game, I haven't really experienced and struggled with any bosses. Unlike in the melee builds that can struggle against bosses when, you know, either you kill the boss fast or the boss kills you. With totems, it's not the case at all. You just put the totem and run away, run around a bit, and totems does the job. You don't have problems surviving whatsoever because you're not really in danger and not really in melee kind of area where the boss can hit you with the most heavy hits. So the boss power is 4 out of 5, no doubts. And I killed the red tier elder. This was my goal this league. I haven't attempted Shaper, but I know I can kill Shaper. It's more Shaper is all about, you know, the mechanics of the build and how well you know the how well you know the fight itself. Not about mechanic of the build, mechanic of the fight. It's more about how you know the fight. So I think still will rate at 1.5 million damage per second. Will still rate the boss power as 4 out of 5. Now for AoE damage, I will rate this, I think, as 3 out of 5, simply because now it's not Reef, it's not the bow build which can fucking destroy the whole screen. It's now the spellcaster like Frostbolt or Freezing Pulse. We have the area where Totem casts shit, and the area is not entirely tiny, but it's not huge either. That's why it's pretty decent. As you can see, I move on the screen pretty freely, casting totems here and there, and totems have quite a decent AoE, but there's not godly AoE like the many skills have with increased area of effect. I also run with Conk effect on during the maps. With increased area effect, it will be much more devastating, but at the same times, I don't really care at this point because I just want the shit to die faster before the shit reaches me. That's why I run with Conk effect, but with increased area effect, it will be very easy, especially when you get the damage right. So AoE damage is 3 out of 5. Now for the toughness, I would potentially rate as 3 out of 5 as well, because you know, even though there's no leech, there's no spell leech, there's no like a huge physical damage reduction, I think that's still pretty high regen, and even in toughest situation, this regen really helped me. Like I mentioned before, I haven't really died a lot across all maps, and I did over 140 different maps, cleared the whole atlas with this build. I haven't really died a lot. I died much more with the melee builds than with this build, to be honest. The high regen really helps against all kind of degeneration, chaos damage, bleeds, and all that shit, which is pretty nasty at the same time. So the toughness as the totem build, this is easily 3 out of 5, and that's about it. So that's about it for the build, guys. Thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the build. I really hope you enjoyed the video. I took a lot of time to build this. I optimized a lot of shit, and I'm doing it for the first time ever for the Path of Exile community. This is the full like build guide that I did. The previous were mostly the sketches. So thanks for watching, and see you soon in the next video.